Hi writers and readers, I'm Christy Stratus, and today I'm doing the Pass It On book tag. I was tagged by Anais, Chartschenko, I hope I said that right, and JB Taylor, so I'm really excited to do this. This is basically naming 3 books that you would pass on and recommend to anybody to read. So I think that the first one is really not a big surprise. It's The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson. I have talked about it many times on my channel, on Joshua Robertson's channel, on The Writer's Edge. It is an absolutely fantastic book. It's fantasy. I don't love all fantasy books. I'm not someone who just always reads fantasy genre, but for me, this one was so much more. It is an incredible mix of social commentary, religious commentary, fantasy setting, dealing with a lot of situations that we deal with these days and forever. And it mixes them in this very flawless way that, you know, of course you can read it as just fiction, but you can also really read into it. There's just so much going on. The characters are very believable in my opinion. I can really relate to them. Brandon Sanderson really does not make it easy for any one of his characters, and I love that. I feel that a lot can be learned from a book like this, whether it's writing or whether it's in life. It's like you've gone through a whole experience. I really feel strongly about this book. This is a book I'm going to have forever, and I'm going to keep reading the series. I read Words of Radiance as well. That book was also excellent. Had a couple of, if you want to be super picky, a couple of points that were just not quite as strong as The Way of Kings, but again, fantastic book. I mean, I would totally recommend that one as well. His next book, Oathbringer, these are all in the same series, the Stormlight Archives. Oathbringer is going to be coming out, I believe, in November, so I'm going to jump on that. This is a huge book. It's like 1,200 pages or something. Yeah, it's over 1,200 pages. It's quite the read. It's really worth it though. It has like a lot of, it even has like illustrations. I mean, when I say it's its own world, Sanderson comes up with such brilliant things, the types of things that you look at and you say, why didn't I think of that? Or I wish I could come up with something similar. It just all comes together in such a brilliant way. And I feel like even if you're not a huge fan of fantasy, you could appreciate this just like I did. So that is my first one. My second one has a lot more meaning to me, and so does my third one because I've liked them for such a long time. My second one is Memoirs of a Geisha. Now this one I read in high school. I don't remember if it was for a class or not. I read it and it was the first time I really became aware of world literature. And yeah, we had read to some degree that kind of stuff in high school, but you know what the classics are. It's not so much, it's more American literature and English, you know, British literature, and we don't stray too far outside that. And this book was really the first time I understood how different cultures are and what a big deal that is, and how even emotions can vary so much, and interpretations of actions. This book really changed my perspective, got me into world literature, which became my favorite kind of literature to read, just comparing cultures, understanding them through literature. It's a different experience and it's amazing, and this was the book that really got me into it. Before you ask, I have not seen the movie. I refuse to see the movie because I love the book, so there's absolutely no way I'm gonna see the movie. There's only like a couple of books I've read that I love where I would even dare seeing the movie. But just in the commercials, they had one character where I saw who it was and I said, well, that's not what they look like, so there's no way I'm going to actually see this movie. Clearly they've already got some stuff wrong just to make it more appealing. The other thing about this was I remember exactly when I read it. I was reading this book while I was in this specific, like, advanced, I hate to say band camp, it comes out so wrong. It was like a group, you're in high school, you go to a college, and you work very intensively on improving your skills. So I was a French hornist. One of the things we were playing was Polivetzian Dances, don't know if I butchered that, by Borodin, and I had never heard anything like it before. It really just amazed me. And then directly afterwards, I got this CD, which I still have, and it's like in the steppes of Central Asia and all kinds of things. Well, first of all, while I was learning to play this, it was a whole other experience than any group I had ever been in, orchestra or band. And at the same time, I was reading this book, so I put those two things together and ended up with this experience that I really never forgot. And it was the introduction to the next thing that I'm going to say is a book that I would pass on. Again, like, you just This really makes you aware of how different our lives can be, whether you look back in history, whether you look at a different culture. There's just so much that we don't know. Even if we study other cultures, there's a lot of stuff we can't understand until we've really been there. So that really opened my eyes. The third work that I would recommend to anyone is this. It's a tough one, but it's Kafka's Metamorphosis. Now, I don't have like a copy of that, but I do have all of my world literature books from college, and they're a very heavy stack. Oh my god, they're very heavy. I couldn't find it in here. I know it was in here. But anyway, that was the book that made me realize that I could write in any way that I wanted, and that professor was also the professor that made me realize I could write any way I wanted. And I have a lot of works that have made it into like literary journals and places like that that are very much more symbolic, experimental, and I would never have written any of that stuff, and therefore never gotten back into writing, and never would have written my novel if I had not read this book. And so you can see why it's a big deal to me. Why did I read it? Because of this book. Because I wanted to take World Lit, and when I took World Lit, I just further realized how much I didn't know about the world and about other cultures, and comparing and contrasting and understanding, and really being tolerant and opening your mind to such different ideas, just for knowledge's sake, you know, more than anything, and compassion. So when I read Kafka's Metamorphosis, I didn't understand a word of it, but I really desperately wanted to. I knew that it was all a symbol, and I said, my god, it's an entire work of symbolism, how can this be? And that really impacted me in all the ways that I just said, and it was a really big deal to me. So I think that everybody should have that experience of something that they don't get that they want to get. That's why I recommend that particular work. So those are my 3 pass it on books. I'm gonna list some people over here that I tag next. I hope you enjoyed these. Let me know if you read any of them. Let me know if you're interested in reading any of them. And as always, thank you so much for spending time with me.